Thank you, Ithaca. I am joined in the commentary booth now by Jintan for Samurai Sold Out against the Alliance colloquially known as Barcode. Jin, do you want to just run us down what the Barcode squad have brought? This looks to be a very interesting match in front of us.
Yeah, from the looks of it, Barcode have brought what I have to effectively describe as a mix of really good small gang ships. They've got a Sleipnir, a Fleet Hurricane, an Onyx, a Cerberus, an Orthrus, a Jackdaw, a Hyena. This team is going to have so much ability to kill off tackle and cruisers, really small ships. It's going to excel at murdering those. How does that line up with the Samurai Sold Out comp that's been brought?
So the Samurai Sold Out comp have also brought a really interesting comp with a Sleipnir, a Fleet Hurricane, 2 Tech 3s, the Loki and the Tengu, a Hugin, a Rook, so 2 Recons as well. They've got Frigate Logi in the Scalp on the Kirin, a Bomber in the Manticore, and some Lynx on the Stork. So, I mean, this match has no battleships in it. It's got some very, very fast cruisers and battle cruisers. Probably not going too fast for the Barcode side after this Loki and Hugin start applying their webs, but no battleships, so not going to be charging into each other. I'd expect to see some more sort of skirmishy style in this match, which would be very, very interesting to see.
Yeah, it'll be like I'm really curious to see how well these Lokis and Tengus get used, because heat is obviously so important to getting every last inch out of those Tech 3s. You've got to be super on the ball if you want to be making the most of them, especially with the recent Tech 3 rebalancing. That Loki does not have the webs it used to unless you're using heat properly.
Yeah, and we didn't see much of the Tech 3s last year. I think they were a little bit too expensive for their power. I think they were 18 points, but now this year reduced down to 15 points. So they may once again become a viable option to add to your fleet and give you some more utility in the case of the Loki, or some damage in the case of the Tengu, presumably.
So you can see that the attack bars here are relatively even, but the main advantage that Samurai Sold Out has is a huge amount of control because of that Rook and Hugin.
Yeah, they've got webs from the Hugin and the Loki. They've got the jams from the Rook, and I mean it could possibly be a jam Tengu. I'd be surprised if it was in a shield comp, but yeah, I mean there's definitely a lot of control on that Samurai Sold Out side. So I mean this Barcode side may have a difficulty, going around kiting with speed and trying to sort of mitigate damage that way. It may be a bit difficult for them.
The thing we're going to really want to look for here, though, is the Scimitar that Havoc 2 is piloting. The Scalpel and Kirin of the Samurai Sold Out team, I don't think that's going to survive beyond the first couple of minutes of the match. There is too much volley and just really good application between the Orthrus, the Jackdaw, the Cerb, the Onyx, and to a lesser extent the Sleipnir and Fleet Hurricanes. There's no way those logistics frigates survive. So it's going to, from there, become a race of can Samurai Sold Out trade their Scimitar, and about the same time their logistics frigates go down. That's roughly how I see this match playing out. How about you, Bazza, though? Do you see any more interesting lines of play that the teams could take here?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, but I think also if this Rook could get some jams on the Scimitar, it may change the match dramatically. Or I mean, if he switches to anything else, for example, I mean, they haven't got any particular huge damage threats, so I would, they haven't got one big ship that does 1,200 damage or 1,500 damage like a Leshak or a Hyperion, so I would probably expect him to put his jams straight on the Scimitar and try and whittle down the other things, but I mean that may go against their game plan of trying to trade the Scimitar, in which case you'd want to jam the other things. So yeah, like you said, I think the time aspect of whether they can trade the Scalpel and the Kirin for the Scimitar will be very interesting and may well decide the match in its entirety.
Yep, you can see there the bars of defense going up across the board as hardeners get activated, people are getting ready, boosts are going out. You can see just how much EHP that Samurai Sold Out team has. They obviously do not really care a huge amount about those Scalpels and Kirins. It looks like they're almost a buffer tanking team in the realm of that Octodad comp that we saw in the previous ATs. You can see here control bars going out on all sides, spreading jams here from the Rook. That's interesting. Putting them on the Manticore, the Orthrus. The Kirin, though, being deleted. Tokudai going down.
Yeah, immediately the Manticore of Blood Ruin going down, they want to clear that DPS really quickly, but at the same time, yeah, Tokudai and the Kirin is taking some massive damage. And
Traded for a Manticore, though, that's not terrible, and they've got webs on the Hyena of Wild Things. If they can start taking out that Hyena, that's going to reduce a lot of their ability to catch some of these ships, like the Manticore. Although it's not seeming to stop them at all, the Orthrus just tearing through it.
Yeah, with the Hyena off the field, they'll have massive control with the Hugin and the Loki webs. But yeah, trading the Kirin for the Manticore, maybe on paper not a particularly good trade, as the Scalpel now their only logistics left. But yeah, with their huge defense bar, it is possible. They've got massive buffer on this Sleipnir, Hurricane, Loki, Tengu, which will make them very, very difficult to kill if they can start whittling down some of this DPS. As the Orthrus of Rain Centro drops into structure.
But look at the Rook of Igwe. You can see here the massive difference between a scimitar and a scalpel, but oh my god, the Orthrus goes down immediately. I think he must have been living on XL charges or something, because he just got volleyed through there.
And the Rook is somehow now holding up. He isn't taking much more damage at all. I imagine, I guess, the Rook has managed to get jams on what was killing him, which was presumably the Sleipnir, as we can see the jam icon on the Sleipnir.
Yeah, and there's a jam on that scimitar. We can't tell if that's effective. Yeah, it looks like it isn't effective. There are reps going onto that Fleet Hurricane, but he is still going down. Look at how much damage is being applied for the Samurai Soul team compared to the Barcode team. You can see this in the overview on the top of your screen. Look at how big that attack bar is from Samurai Sold Out. They're putting in everything. It doesn't matter that the Scalpel is dying, because they're killing everything else on Barcode team faster.
Yeah, they've got a lot of damage from the Sleipnir, this Fleet Hurricane, this Loki's probably got some missiles as well as the Tengu, so they've got 4 really high DPS threats here. And I mean, the Barcode team doesn't have a huge amount of DPS without that Orthrus and Fleet Hurricane. It's just the Sleipnir and the Onyx left, maybe the Jackdaw getting, 200, 300 DPS at a push. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be quite difficult to break something even without the Logis, and yeah, with the massive buff presumably on the Fleet Hurricane, the Loki, the Tengu, very, very difficult to break them from now on out.
Yeah, it looks like they are going for that Hugin. They have a heavy point on him. They have a paint on him. He's going nowhere. He's probably going to die, and that Scalpel is obviously dead. They don't have any reps. But the Cerberus is going down now of Mudia. Still, that Scimitar, every second that Scimitar lives is really, really dangerous for the Samurai Sold Out team. Because if that Rook starts missing jams, that's game for the that's game for the Samurai team. Hugin dead.
Yeah, as the Hugin goes down for Samurai Sold Out, but I think they've committed too much to this sort of game plan at the moment. I don't think they can switch to the Scimitar at the moment.
Oh my god, the chunk on that Cerb though. Did you see that? This must be a pure resist tank on that Cerberus. I'm just watching this guy flick back and forth between 20% shield and 100% as the Scimitar
he's cycling, he's praying, he's hoping and praying.
And now they're going onto this Tengu as well. And look at how much defense, how much passive defense the Samurai Sold Out team has. You can see that in the top. That is the amount of relative EHP they have compared to their opponents. Look at how much tank they still have. Look at how much damage they still do. And the Cerberus goes down. This trading might actually work out. Ignoring the logistics, if you have a Rook, might be a viable option. This is crazy.
I think Samurai Sold Out definitely got the upper hand in this match. They're they're committing to this DPS race. They've realised there's only a Sleipnir and an Onyx and a Jackdaw left. There's not much DPS left on the field. So even though they've lost their 2 Logi frigates, they can still just outrace them and whittle down the Sleipnir, whittle down the Onyx, and then there's nothing left that's going to kill them. It's just the Scimitar, which they can eat alive eventually.
Yeah, I mean, look at how many points were invested in that Scimitar. 17 points. And all of the fits on that Barcode team were probably designed with that logistics ship in mind. Samurai Sold Out have been able to effectively neutralize it with 11 points. That gives them 7 extra points to spend on their team. And that Scimitar, and like all the rest of their fits are now suboptimal. You can see, look at how little damage is being applied to this Tengu. He's just sitting there. He's a happy camper with just a few rep drones on him. The Barcode team simply doesn't have the DPS to start breaking through his tank, now that they only have like a Sleipnir, Onyx, and Jackdaw left. There's so little that the Barcode team can do here, now that the jams are taking full effect.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that you made about the what was it, the...
Yeah, well, I can't help but think that right now Barcode's going to be kicking themselves for not bringing some info links. Potentially having one of the E-War Resist modules would have helped them a great deal here. It looks like both teams are kind of stalling out. The Tech 3s are just waiting for another jam to be missed, another jam to hit on that Scimitar. Oh no, they're jamming out all the DPS now. Oh, this is just cruel from Samurai Sold Out. They're making them watch.
Sorry about that, my train of thought's just gone into a tunnel, but it's come out again. I was thinking about how you were saying the Samurai Sold Out team they've acted under the assumption, they've made these fits and they've said, okay, we're going to lose the Scalpel and the Kirin, but it doesn't really matter because we're still so tanky after those ships go down that they're not going to be able to kill us with what's left. And it's a really, really good strategy from Samurai Sold Out. I'm very impressed by this showing. They've executed their strategy perfectly. They've come up with a game plan. They've said, okay, we're going to lose the frigates. Doesn't really matter. Let's just commit to the DPS race, beat them down. And yeah, it's going very, very well.
Yeah, I suppose Tech 3s might be what we see become the new meta in terms of logistics trading. This was obviously a very common strategy in AT-14 specifically. We saw a lot of Typhoons, big heavy battleships, and the whole point was you put them on top of the enemy logistics and you tried to kill it before they killed you. And normally it worked out well. And here we're seeing an evolution of it. You're bringing a ship so that you can turn off your enemy logistics and then just going ham on the rest of their fleet. I love it. This is brutal, bloody fighting, and it's going to encourage nothing but extensive trading of ships.
Yeah, and also for the spectators, this has been a fantastic match. I mean, for most of this match, it could have gone either way. It was very, very difficult to judge which team was actually had the upper hand. I mean, the scalpel for the Manticore, on paper, you might think Samurai sold out. You know, they've lost their Logi frigate, they've lost half of their rep capabilities, and you'd think, you know, they've only traded it for a Manticore, which I mean does a lot of DPS, but probably not as much as you'd expect against the Sleipnir, the Hurricane, the Loki, the Tengu. Which are all going to be SIG tanking in this sort of battle cruiser sort of themed team. So on paper, you might think, yeah, not a great trade, but they've worked around it. They've done a very, very good job.
Yeah, now you can see, you know, the Barcode team just trying to get at least something more in that stalk, but it's just such a slow kill here. Samurai Sold Out aren't inclined to put any more than like the minimum amount of pressure, and Chessa and Havoc, bless their souls, are making sure this lasts as long as humanly possible, running away from the enemy. Not that it's going to do them much help, because this actual Samurai Sold Out core appears to have pretty long range. Like, these might be HMLs. I can't actually look at the ships right now to tell with the models.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the Fleet Hurricane would be expected to have pretty decent projection. The Sleipnir as well, I believe it has a fall-off bonus, so yeah, it's going to be able to hit quite far across the arena, and the Loki and Tengu, I'd be surprised to see them if they were ham fit. I think HML is probably much more likely in this Alliance Tournament setting, so yeah, it's going to be difficult for them to run away and get away from this damage, but I mean, they are going to go down eventually, I'd say.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, really. Like, this Sleipnir was just able to reload his XLASB, so they're finally switching over to that Onyx. I think we're probably going to see this match run to time, but it's, you know, this was not a close one after around the midpoint. After we saw that really effective trade, I think the key point was that Cerberus going down of Moodia.
Like, yeah, once they killed the Cerberus and the Orthrus, there just wasn't enough damage left to break anything with the Rook left putting jam pressure on all sorts of things. You know, you've only got Sleipnir and Onyx left. You're not really going to break much against these buffer tanks.
No, and that Cerberus pilot did a lot of what he did as much as he could, but there's only so much you can do versus that level of DPS, and whilst you're in a resist tank primarily, and whilst your logistics is jammed. His XLASB could only keep him up for so long, and after that, he didn't have the buffer to live. You know,
they do manage to kill the stalk of Coco Hekmadja for Samurai Sold Out, but I think that's it's not going to be particularly impactful in the long run, as the Barcode dudes just a minute left in the match, just trying to stay alive and not have to rebuy their the ships for the next match they might want with.
Mm-hmm. For those of you who are wondering why this alliance is reading as a series of L's, that's because in the EVE Online client, if you look up their name, this reads as a series of lines, so it looks like a barcode, which is a StarCraft 2 meme.
40 seconds left now. I'm not sure they're going to be able to break anything. The Onyx is holding at full shot, although he's still cycling his ASB. It's hard to judge how many cycles he's got left. If he does run out, he's only on very low armor, so he will probably die. So it's just a matter of you know, Chessa hoping and praying.
It looks like the Sleipnir have got himself, is MJDing himself out of the arena. Oh no, he didn't. He wasn't. He's not going for the Edge of Glory. What a coward. He was just trying to run away and make this match last till time. Still, I think at this point it's pretty much wrapped up. It seems that LLLLLLLLLLL are going to be making good on their names and taking home the biggest L of all, the loss in the first round.
Yeah, and this team, you know, Thermodynamics members, they'd be expected to go quite far. They were rated quite highly by quite a lot of people, so going down into the losers bracket in the first round is, you know, a big detriment if you're trying to make a long tournament run. So yeah, good showing by Samurai Sold Out. Personally, I'm very surprised by this match, and I think we'll hand it back to the guys in the studio.
I don't know how much left. Is this the question?
I mean,
is this a real question?
I've asked a question for every
I know,
round.
right? Tempest Calcif is so good. They have such tournament pedigree.
Yeah, they're so good, dude. Yeah, skip it and move on. Hydra.
Massive snuff leak.
That's friendly.
Relax,
dude.
Dude, that's
not snuff. That's 3 snuff and an R drop.
Kidding me?
Jesus Christ, are you the fucking last part?
Hi guys, welcome back there. Samurai sold out, taking what most of us considered to be an upset there over thermodynamics as Chesser and co feather themselves straight into the dumpster that is the lower tier of the brackets. So good job, Samurai sold out there. Unfortunate commiserations to the Barcode team as they go out. So, how did you make of that match, Tony? That's probably the best match we've seen.
Yeah, it was super close, and we actually had a very similar sort of composition from both sides, what we call flare killer comp from previous ATs, where generally it's a very heavy execution comp, relying on Alpha Strike from the Fleet Hurricanes, the Sleipnirs, or the Rapid Lights from the Orpheus and the Onyx from the Barcode side, to just pick off key ships straight away, like logistics, cruisers or frigates or bombers, just get rid of a lot of stuff really quickly and then just slowly win the match.
So lads, what did you make of it? I mean, was that just execution that they beat them there on, or was it a better comp that they fielded?
I think the Samurai team actually had the better comp there, but you saw that execution-wise, the Barcode team actually did get the logistics frigs off the field very quickly. I think what really made a difference there was the Rook jams on the Samurai side. They were able to keep the jams on the Scimitar so that they could remove those key ships and take them off the field. But you saw that Orpheus, he would bounce down to armor, then all the way back up to full shields once the Scimitar actually was able to rep. But eventually the Alpha just became too much, and then you saw at one point his armor just vanished like that, and it was done for. And they just lost too much DPS too quickly.
As you mentioned Alpha, do you want to just explain maybe for anyone who's new to the tournament, what do we mean when we say Alpha Strike, and like sort of in this particular comp, what ships were they using?
Yeah, so artillery is known for its large volley damage, and that's usually what we refer to as an alpha strike, is the initial shot coming from those guns. So you have the Rail Tengu, you have the Loki, you have the artillery from the Sleipnir and Fleet Hurricane. So you take all of that damage from that one volley, and to combine that is your alpha strike.
And that's very hard to rep through, especially in ships that don't have much buffer, because it can, as we saw in that match, volley you down so far, the reps land, and then the next volley lands before the reps can go again, and it can just be catastrophic if you get volleys between rep cycles. But, you know, congratulations, Samurai sold out. Let's look forward to the next match, which is going to be a team of my own heart, my own team. We form Volta versus Seven Sins. Now, Suetonia, who are Volta?
So We Form Volta is captained by a Starfleet commander. They're a pretty big wormhole roaming group. They're actually involved in the war right now, right? Along with Skill Yourself on that sort of side.
Yep, and also Volta, as you say, very experienced Alliance Tournament team under Starfleet commander, ranked 3rd in AT14, winning AT10, and usually making it to the top 8. Last year, top 9, well, rather 9th. Unfortunately losing to Rix and his merry band of pirates with their ECM dishonorableness, and going out then after with a match against the Tuskers in the losers bracket last year. That bracket was absolute hell, but you know, I can't be too salty about it, so we just have to move on. So we don't actually have long before this next match, I believe, so we can maybe start looking at predictions. Now, I don't know why we bother with this match. We should just award the win to Volta straight off the bat. That's probably what's going to happen. Obviously, I mean, Volta's a great team. It's my team. Good luck, guys. So I'm going to go for Volta. What do you think, Laz?
I definitely think Volta's going to pull it out. Like I said, they've won an AT. They've placed well in all of the ATs they've participated in, and they have a great leader. So Volta's going to definitely take it, I think. And
Suetonia, are you going to still be my friend, or are you going to go for Volta as well?
Well, they're playing against Seven Sins, which I believe is a low-sec gate camping alliance, from what I know. They do have a flagship Scorpion Navy issue. We did see Leshak versus Scorpion Navy issue, and the Scorpion Navy issue guys won. But I'm still going to go Volta. I think they're probably going to win this.
3 for 3 for Volta. Yeah. Now, we do have more of our fantastic Alexei Graf porn to show you now, and I believe it's the most picked ships. So we're starting to move through the tournament. We're starting to see the meta, and this is the thing that's going to develop over time. But as perhaps we could have predicted, the Leshak coming in there with a solid top along with the Praxis. Now, the Praxis is an interesting one. It is not won as much as the Leshak, but it's been picked just as much. I mean, Laz, why do you pick a Praxis in this particular tournament? What's so good about it?
Well, I mean, the Praxis is a very versatile ship. It has a really, really great layout for its modules. It has the ability to use pretty much any weapon system with its bonuses. So it's a very versatile ship when you put it on the field that the other team doesn't really know what it's going to be fit with. So, I mean, whenever the match is about to start, they have to zoom into the ship, see if they can tell what turrets it's running. I mean, it's kind of like a curveball in baseball. You throw it out there and see if the other team can hit it.
Americanisms already, wow. The freedom is just off the chain in here. Now, so Tony, we also see things like the Sunesis and the Vedmak being picked almost as much as the Leshak and the Praxis. And then pulling up number 5 is the Griffin. So why are people picking the Sunesis so much? I mean, what's so special about that this year?
So this year's tournament is sponsored by the Society of Conscious Fall, and all of their ships are discounted by 2 points. So that Praxis, it costs 15 points instead of 17 points. The Sunesis actually costs 1 point instead of 3 points. So it's a very good ship just to fill in any sort of spare slot you have when you only have a few points remaining, especially since the Sunesis, just like the Praxis, it has 4 mids, 4 lows. You can do almost anything with it. It's got a drone bay. You can just have it as a remote rep bot ship or whatever you want really, or tackle. And the Vedmak is a Triglavian ship. The Triglavian ships in this year are also discounted. This is also, they're not officially sponsoring the tournament, but they are sort of involved with the Society of Conscious Thought in the lore. All of their ships, even though they're sort of at the same the power level as the pirate ships, like the Vedmak is about as powerful as a pirate cruiser like the Orpheus, it actually only costs the same amount of points as a Tech 1 cruiser.
That's pretty phenomenal to get such a ship for so little points. Now, speaking of, you mentioned briefly the Leshak and the Vedmak, and also I can't remember the name of it, but the frigate version as well.
The Damavik.
The Damavik, that's the one. So the Damavik and the Vedmak are actually going to be, the prize ships for this tournament are going to be based on those ships. I believe they've got the Hydra and...
The Tiamat.
The Tiamat, yeah. So Laz, you know a little bit about those ships? Do you want to tell us about them?
I've actually haven't played with them on TQ yet. I've messed with a little bit on CC, but you have the main damage module, which is called the Disintegrator, and it's a weapon that builds up its damage over time. So the longer it's on a target, the higher damage builds up on it, and it actually gets pretty awesome DPS on all of its versions. I think the main drawback we've seen with especially the Leshak is if you're fitting the Tech 2 versions, they do have issue with fitting. So a lot of these flagships, they're probably going to be running non-Tech 2, probably named versions. That way they can fit more onto the ships.
Yeah, and so Tony, the actual prize ships that are based on these ships that Laz just talked about, what's the main differences between them?
So they have a lot more mid slots. They have the same sort of universal sort of slot layout as the Society of Conscious Thought ships. So instead, the Damavik one, the Tiamat, I believe, it's 444 instead of the Damavik, which is 324. They also have a roll bonus, which also increases the Disintegrator maximum damage by 50%. As well, so they can also ramp up for a longer amount of time, although keeping an AT ship on the field for such a long time is a very risky endeavour. Yeah,
one of our commentators who'll be joining us in the desk in a little bit of time can tell you all about bringing AT ships and losing them, I believe, last year NC.Fed 600 bill. But it is time to watch Volta win a match, so we're going to go to the arena now for the guys in the booth.